restrained, or restless. Sitting still to concentrate, but what to focus on. Speculating on what needs to be corrected to improve things for yourself or for humanity as a whole. The pressure to challenge authority. Jumping the gun and taking action before all the facts are in place. These are all pressures, qualities, and questions that this cycle of the Human Design Weather for June 25th to July 1st, 2026 bring. Hello, hello, and welcome to the Human Design Weather or Not podcast with me, Margo Fraser. I am just heading off today on a trip to northern Saskatchewan. We're going to be on a 2-week canoe trip. So yeah, sitting still is going to be very helpful for this. This cycle, we have two collective traits activating the Sun-Earth positions. This will bring impersonal sharing of patterns and formula to carry us into the future. Logic is looking for those stable patterns that allow you to know that if you do A, B, and C, for example, you're going to get a certain result consistently and reliably. There's a security in that. And both of these traits are in the root, the bottom square in the chart, which is both a motor and a pressure center that brings the adrenalized drive. So this is going to be a pressurized cycle. You could call these two root gates the foundation for logic. In order to experiment, you have to be able to sit still and concentrate. And there has to be vitality and a kind of joy to stick with all the repetition and practice that's required in the process. This cycle begins on June 25th at 3:54 a.m., going until July 1st at 1:29 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Universal time coordinates, it starts June 25th at 9:54 a.m., going until July 1st at 7:29 a.m. Remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun-Earth activations as that 70% of the conditioning field. The Sun has moved into gate 52, the trait of inaction and keeping still. Its keynote says temporary and self-imposed inaction for the benefit of assessment. This is part of the channel of concentration. Part of being able to concentrate is being able to sit still. So this fuel of the root center is using the adrenalized drive for being passive rather than active. This is sometimes called the Buddha gate. Mechanically, it can bring stillness and it can seem antisocial, as that lack of active energy tends to lead to withdrawal. Now, that's actually a plus in this situation, as it's usually easier to concentrate if you withdraw. While this energy brings the energy to sit still, its electromagnetic gate 9 in the sacral center is the trait of focusing your vital energy, the other part of concentration. If you don't have gate 9 in your own chart, not knowing what to focus that adrenalized energy on can lead to tension, restlessness, or feeling down or agitated. Patience is going to be needed here. As you're out and about, you're likely to move through the aura of someone who has that gate 9. Then it can all come together there. Ultimately, logic is trying to prove or disprove a theory, a formula, a pattern through experimenting, or it supports developing your talent through practice and repetition. The Earth has moved into gate 58, the gate of aliveness, also called the Joyous. Its keynote says stimulation is the key to joy. Where the 52 provides the energy to sit still and concentrate, the 58 provides the energy to actually do the experiment, to challenge what's currently accepted and not working and find a better way, and to challenge your own abilities and ultimately develop your talent. Experimenting and talent, again, require a lot of persistence to repeat and refine over and over again. So there fundamentally needs to be this joyousness, this aliveness and love of life itself to be able to stick with that repetition and practice that's necessary to find the best formula or recipe, so to speak, or to master a talent. Ultimately, logic wants to serve humanity by bettering society through finding better patterns, better formula, ways, methods that will help everyone. And part of that includes challenging what's existing. While this trait brings the energy to challenge authority and the status quo, there's no awareness here. This is the root center. The awareness of what's not working is in its electromagnetic gate 18 in the splenic center, the trait of correction. Gate 58, on the other hand, can only speculate on what to challenge. It's not clear. So it can bring this energy to challenge things generally just because the energy's there, rather than waiting to connect with those who have gate 18, if you don't have it in your own design, to get clear on what to put that energy into. The splenic center is an awareness center and correlated to your immune system. So if you use this gate 58 fuel in a healthy way, waiting for the awareness to come in and following your strategy and authority, it can really support your immune system. If you don't wait and jump into things too fast or spread yourself too thin from lack of clear awareness, it's going to challenge your immune system. When we look at these two traits together, they could bring the ability to sit still, be patient, and once it's clear what to focus on and what needs correction, then this energy can be used to concentrate on that. Or it could bring restlessness and jumping to conclusions that has you putting energy into trying to make something better in an uninformed way, or putting energy into something that's not correct for you to even be engaging with. Impatience? Well, that's likely to be a theme here in the not-self world. Expect to feel and see around you those who are joyfully staying still and those who are restless, frustrated, and critical about things that don't really matter. Ultimately, the logic circuitry is about being of service. So you may feel more pressure this cycle to be of service, but without waiting for the awareness of what specifically is aligned for you, you could be pulled into being of service in ways that don't actually align with your true gifts through your design, and then spreading yourself too thin and potentially burning out. All right, let's move to the nodes of the transit field now that bring the homogenized perspective and direction that we'll see in the world. This is the context that the transit field's bringing, that the sun, earth, and other planets express themselves within. And we can't separate ourselves from our environment, so the qualities of these traits can also play out through us. We have the North Node sitting in gate 55, the individual trait of abundance and spirit in the emotional center. It brings a general context that's about the individual spirit. It's a moody, glass half full, glass half empty perspective, as well as passion, romance, or their polarities. Gate 55 has the highs and the lowest lows of all gates in the emotional center. So we could see more emotional volatility in the world while this is present. Since individual traits can also drop into melancholy, there's the potential for seeing and feeling the melancholy in the world. The South Node sitting in gate 59, the tribal trait of sexuality in the sacral center. It's part of the channel of mating, and it's going to bring a general context where one-on-one relationships are highlighted, whether intimate, friendships, or business partnerships. It could bring an environment where literal fertility issues are more present and where there could be creative fertility or not. The nodes start the cycle in line 2 with its theme of projecting out this trait, even though it doesn't mean that the individual can actually fulfill on that. Line 2 also carries the themes of an antisocial nature and selectiveness. For gate 55, line 2 is called distrust. It has a developmental theme that says abundance hampered by slander or gossip. What's being projected out here is the mood. So whether you're in a glass half full mood or a glass half empty mood, where you're at in your mood is where you're at. But the up and down of it, the fickleness of it, can create distrust. And where's this person at now, right? So your ability to relate to others can have them accept that, yeah, you're at where you're at. But if you're trying to convince others that they can trust where you're at, that just tends to create deeper distrust. For gate 59, line 2 is called shyness. And it has a developmental theme that says self-imposed barriers. Second lines are selective and are in their own process, which is a little tricky when it's part of the channel of mating and intimacy. So there's a natural putting up of barriers for protection that we refer to as shyness. And it's going to need the boldness of another to come in and break down those barriers. In the detriment, these barriers are intensified, and only very specific people are going to have the consistency of boldness and the exact genetic attraction for intimacy to work. So our context, our homogenized environment in the first part of this cycle will be one of natural guardedness and this putting up of barriers, as well as a distrustfulness that's going to make it more difficult to establish those one-on-one relationships at whatever level that is. On June 29th at 9:11 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, 3:11 p.m. UTC, the nodes are going to move into line 1. This is the line of introspection and investigation, always looking for security, but also has that theme of insecurity. For gate 55, line 1 is called cooperation. In the exaltation, it says the potential to find the spirit through cooperation with powerful forces. The detriment says the potential to harmonize with powerful forces, but not necessarily for the benefit of the spirit. Gate 55 is going to be feeding its energy to the 2212, the next channel in the stream. That's the channel of openness. It's the only social channel in the individual circuitry. So gate 55 is establishing that spirit that can allow you to be social and potentially bring through something mutative, the real goal of individuality. Here in gate 55, it's all about finding those glass half full people that know more than you or have more experience than you in whatever way it resonates for you, so that your spirit can benefit from them, right? There's an abundance in gaining that knowledge, that information, and so on, that can lift your spirit higher. If you're with what we would call inferior forces, those that know less than you or don't really bring anything to the table that you don't know, they can bring you down lower than they are. They're going to drain your cup. For gate 59, line 1's called the preemptive strike. Go get them first. The exaltation says the authority and vitality that in understanding purpose and direction can recognize and eliminate barriers before they become impregnable. The power of fertility to impregnate. In the detriment, it says in this position, the ability and intelligence to recognize, but a deep indecisiveness about how and where to act. The potential of fertility limited by uncertainty. So again, keep in mind that gate 59 at the primal level is about survival of the species and part of the channel of mating. So its focus is those one-on-one relationships. Line 1 is the foundation. You bring the strong together with the weak to maintain the species. You investigate and learn when you're strong and when you're weak, and when the other is strong and weak. If you haven't completed your investigation and introspection, there's going to be indecisiveness in when to act. If you have, you know when you're strong and when to pursue the other, or when to allow yourself to be pursued. This is a line that's also associated with that theme in relationships. Pursue and pursued. This is the pressure it's going to bring at a personal level. Unfortunately, with this frequency, it's also one that can bring abuse, where the strong force themselves on the weak. At the collective level, this can bring displays of strength and literal preemptive strengths in a military way. But where the investigation is not completed or has been ignored, there may be a little surprise there and frustration that those thought to be weak are actually not. They're prepared to fight back. We can also see the rise in strength of people in protecting the weak from abuse. Overall in the nodes, here we have an introspective, investigative environment where we're going to see those who are aligning with another in partnership to fill their cup or not, and to determine who's strong and who's weak. And we're going to be able to see that in the world. All right, let's move to the definitions now through any short to long-term channels and gate activations in the related centers. These bring the consistent themes present in the cycle created by the transit field. Everyone that doesn't already have these in their chart is receiving activation of the related traits and qualities, so it has a big impact that way. In the homogenized world, it's going to run those who are not aware. However, with your awareness, you have the potential to learn from these frequencies when it's correct for you. I'm going to leave out the moon and the inner planet transits unless they're in a significant channel or present for most of the cycle. We have our medium-term channel of acceptance, a design of an organizational being that came in on June 17th and will be with us until July 12th, creating our only definition in the transit field for this cycle. Mercury sitting in gate 62, the trait of details in the throat center, connecting with Neptune's position. Gate 17, the trait of opinions in the Ajna center. Gate 17 is correlated biologically with the right eye that takes in patterns in the now. It's going to bring the pressure to conceptualize your theories and your opinions from the various patterns that you've taken in to determine which might be best to carry you and humanity into the future. It's in line one called openness and brings the possibility to just be open to many different patterns that are out there in the world. And then taking those in, going through your own conceptualization process and determining what your opinions are in many different areas. Or like an art critic in the detriment, it's only having opinions when it comes to a certain area of interest that you enjoy, but no opinion in any other area. Neptune's going to make it tougher to grasp the patterns with its veiling effect. So yeah, it's likely going to slow down the process here. And again, it'll be a bit more difficult to grasp those opinions and those theories. Gate 62, the trait of detail in the throat center, has the voice of I think or I don't think. It brings all the facts and details together to express to others so they can really understand the theory, understand the method, the way, the pattern. Since Mercury's about communicating as well, it's a good fit for a throat gate, but it's also going to put more pressure on expressing the opinions and theories, and the timing may not be right. You have to wait until you've been invited. And if you haven't been invited to speak and you're not following your strategy and authority, all those facts and details can be overwhelming to others or boring or annoying. Because gate 17 carries anxiety of being challenged, there can also be expressing made up facts here to try and convince others. The channel of acceptance as the design of an organizational being will bring the pressure to organize people and things. If you've got some organizing to do, this could be very helpful. If you're not following your strategy and authority, you could be spending time and energy organizing things that aren't of value. With Mercury activating the throat gate, there could also be a lot of talking about getting things organized or how things should be organized or the lack of organization. This channel definition activates the ajna and the throat center. So gates 20 and 56 in the throat center will also be part of this definition. Gate 20 is the trait of the now and the most existential trait in the body graph. It's in line 4 called application. It has a developmental theme that says recognition and awareness that can only be transformed into action in cooperation with those who have the ability to act upon the understanding. Line 4 is externalizing, so it can see that there's someone else there that can benefit from its knowing. Here is a throat gate. It can express its individual knowing in the now. Now, in the exaltation, it's the teacher whose students can really grasp and understand that knowing. They're able to explain it well. And then those students can use it to actually transcend the teacher. In the detriment, the students can't really grasp the knowing that's expressed here, so it just remains theory. Gate 56 is being activated by Jupiter. This is the trait of stimulation, and it's part of the mental collective abstract process where the ideas that have come from the making sense process and our experiences can be expressed and shared through stimulating stories. Just a reminder that there's no action that needs to be taken from these mental processes. Jupiter's quite busy this cycle. It's starting in line 3 and it's finishing in line 5. So line 3 is called alienation, and it has a developmental theme that says determined self-sufficiency. Now, line 3 is the line of trial and error and bonds made and broken. It's more internalized, so it's doing it itself, going through the trial and error process, and I'm going to do it my way, myself. Going to be self-sufficient here. Now, this is a line that wants others to listen, and yet you might not know yet how to really express things in a stimulating way. So that is what comes through the trial and error process. And for better or worse, there's going to be feedback, and you can learn and adapt or not. On June 26th at 4:12 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, 10:14 a.m. UTC, Jupiter is going to move into line 4 called expediency. Line 4 is the line of the opportunist. So patience is needed for the right opportunity to express the concepts and the ideas. The 4th line brings the ability to be a good storyteller as a role and be able to stimulate others through those stories. However, You don't actually have to believe in the story yourself here. It's like parables. The story is the medium to get the message across. In the detriment, there's inserting yourself into the story to get attention and really taking on the belief that you did it. It's going to get challenged by others at some point, and that eventually could lead to some humiliation. On June 30th at 1:53 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, 7:53 p.m. UTC, Jupiter is going to move into line 5 called Attracting Attention. This is the line of universalization where we'll project onto each other that the other has the stimulating story, experience, or idea to share, whether they really do or not. It does bring this capacity to stimulate others through stories, though it might not be the right stimulation. And there can also be the projection that the other is just telling stories, telling fibs, and not necessarily the truth here. If the story fits the projection, that storyteller can be seen as a real innovator and genius with the ideas they bring through. If not, well, those ideas could be provoking and even disturbing to some. I'll mention that we also have Mars in gate 8, the trait of individual contribution in the throat, until June 28th at 5:41 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, 11:41 p.m. UTC. This is where you can bring your unique contribution out to others when invited. However, Mars hasty energy may have you blurting out your contribution. Looking at the definition all together now. The transit field is bringing the pressure to express your theories and organize things with all the details and facts, weaving in your stories from your experiences, weaving in your ideas and what you know and want to contribute uniquely in a way that brings understanding, can stimulate others, and could be mutative. The fuel of the Sun-Earth positions could bring a patience to wait for the right focus and timing to do so, and the energy to take action on those theories and prove or disprove them. All of this within a more antisocial context where we may be more selective in who we share with until the nodes change on the 29th. And then it's a more introspective environment where we want to hear from those who have more knowledge and fill our cups and can have that pursuing of others from strength or not. What we're more likely to see is people blurting out their theories without the facts to back it up, resulting in disorganization and the telling of lies to try and boost the ego using information that others can't actually grasp, leaving them overwhelmed or bored. If I integrate the Sun Earth now into this, impatience may have people jumping the gun in taking action, and the inability to focus one's energy will have the information blurted out in a scattered way that's not logical, where people are just jumping from supposed fact to another, all within the context where people are aligning with those that drain their spirit and are trying to dominate over another. We continue to have lots of pressure on the throat, so watch that you're not blurting things out before being invited, or it will likely be to the wrong people at the wrong time. And of course, following your strategy and authority. Be patient, and there's an opportunity to really organize your thoughts and things outside of you and determine what to focus and concentrate your energy on, and what corrections you might be able to use this energy for if it's correct for you, according to your strategy and authority. All right, let's look at the remaining long-term transits in the undefined centers now. Whether these traits have a personal impact on you is going to depend on your own design. We've discussed the Sun, Earth, and the nodes already. What remains is gate 21, the trait of the hunter, huntress, and control in the ego center being activated by Saturn. It starts the cycle in line 5 called objectivity. This has a developmental theme that says the use of force must be based on impartiality and not emotionally motivated. This trait's about managing resources and people so that the tribe can be materially successful. And if there's people that are interfering with that, objectively, you've got to use some force to manage that. Over time, you can learn to apply willpower to control things in an objective way. Now, the detriment of this line that's more subjective isn't active in the world, so don't need to worry about that. On June 30th at 4:26 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, 10:26 p.m. UTC, Saturn's going to move into line 6 called Chaos. It also has a developmental theme that says where ineffective action leads to disorder. Now, six lines can look at the whole circuitry. So here, the whole tribal circuitry. It's not going to do anything unless it can see that the action taken can really lead to manifestation of the material. There's an innate understanding that disorder and chaos results if the actions to manage the resources and people are not effective. And the sixth line also brings looking for something beyond the material. So there can be this looking for something more spiritual here. It can actually be an anti-material gate. We don't have the exaltation of this trait active in the world, so just the detriment is present. And it says where the material direction is chaotic, the ego will withdraw and use its power to find an inner order. Interestingly, there can be a pull to spiritual businesses here that help people with inner order. In any case, you may notice that people who are feeling overwhelmed by the chaos in the world are more withdrawn while this frequency is present. And that's going to be enhanced by the introspective frequencies of the nodes. We also have gate 41, the trait of decrease and contraction in the root center. It's part of the abstract experiential circuitry. It's in line 4 called correction, where you can use this drive to adapt and correct along the way to fulfilling an experience, or you can use it to maintain harmonious relationships at the expense of adapting. This is the pressure to start a new feeling experience. And these two different ways are just going to result in a different kind of journey. Okay, let's finish up with a quick review of the channels being created by the transits of the moon. Because they're only present for about 10 or 11 hours, give or take, they don't have a big impact on the homogenized conditioning field we've talked about, but they could have a personal impact. So good to be aware that they're there. Got quite a few this cycle, so I'll just go through them briefly here. First one's coming in June 25th at 3:02 a.m., going until 2:18 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, starting June 25th at 9:02 a.m., going until 8:18 p.m. UTC. It's a continuation from last cycle. We have the 8-1 individual channel of inspiration connecting the G center to the throat center. This is the design of a creative role model and brings the pressure to express your unique creativity in your own way, no matter what anyone thinks. Then we have coming in June 26th at 12:56 p.m. until June 27th at 12:18 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC coming in June 26th at 6:56 p.m., going until the 27th at 6:18 a.m. We have the 3420 channel of charisma, connecting the sacral center to the throat center. This is a design where thoughts must become deeds. So it's going to bring the pressure to be busy and take action on whatever thoughts cross your mind. All right, next one. It's coming in June 27th at 12:18 a.m., going until 11:40 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC coming in June 27th at 6:18 a.m., going until 5:40 p.m. We have the 52-9 channel of concentration connecting the root to the sacral center. This is a design of determination that will bring the pressure to sit still and focus on logical work that requires repetition and practice towards perfecting a pattern or developing a talent. Now, we have that 52 in the sun's position. So although this is a very short time period, this channel's active, it is a pretty potent one. All right, next one. Coming in June 28th at 10:25 a.m., going until 9:47 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC coming in on the 28th at 4:25 p.m., going until the 29th at 3:47 a.m. We have the 11:56 channel of curiosity, connecting the ajna to the throat center. This is the design of a seeker that brings the pressure to express your ideas and beliefs and what you've made sense of through storytelling. Last one. This one's coming in June 28th at 9:47 p.m., going until the 29th at 9:08 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC coming in on the 29th at 3:47 a.m., going until 3:08 p.m. We have the 10 20, Channel of Awakening, connecting the G center to the throat center. We had this for the full cycle in our last cycle. It's the design of commitment to higher principles that brings the pressure to express yourself through your behavior and your self-love, or not. All right, that brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. If you're new to human design and you just want to understand the basics of the body graph at a high level, what's the black and the red about, the different geometric shapes and so on, feel free to grab my free human design basics mini course. It's at margogfraser.com. All right. Well, as I mentioned, I'm driving up to northern Saskatchewan today to start a 2-week canoe trip. So I'll be off grid, but I'm setting up the reports to go out on time as they come up. So in the meantime, have a great cycle. Be kind to one another, and may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.